everybody, it's Paige Evans. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a new project process to share with you, these fun pop-up cards. This is a campaign created for Disney for the release of Frozen 2 because Anna and Elsa live far away from each other now. They communicate through mail, so I thought it would be fun to create a pop-up card to send in the mail. So I have templates, which you can find to download on my website. I will leave a link below. And just you'll have to pay attention to the numbers and the sizes, and then the scoring versus score then cut and cut lines, all in that legend right here. And in addition to the templates, you will need a paper trimmer which has 1/8 inch increments. Mine are kind of fading, so a newer paper cutter would probably be handy. An optional tool is a sewing machine. I love adding texture and attaching pieces together with my sewing machine, but that's optional. Liquid glue, double-sided tape on a roll, a corner rounder, fine-tipped scissors, scrapbooking embellishments such as stickers and die cuts. These are all from my Bloom Street collection with pink paisley. You want a variety of pattern papers. I have 8 pattern papers. And you want sturdy cardstock. I am using a 12 by 12 piece, but the template can be used with 8.5 by 11. Transparency and a scoring board with the tool, again with 1/8 inch increments. Using the template, the first piece of cardstock you want to cut is 8 by 10 inches. So I'm grabbing my paper trimmer and trimming the cardstock to 5 inches, rotate by 10 inches. Now, using the template, it shows where you want to score. So I'm going to rotate it so it's 5 by 10, and the first line you want to score at is 2 3/8 of an inch. So again, it's super important that you have the 1/8 inch divisions. And then 4 3/4 inches, 7 1/8 inches, and 9.5 inches. Now you want to flip the paper over, rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then score at 2 1/4 inches. Now, based on the template, you are going to cut. The solid line is where you cut, and then the blue line is where you've scored and then cut, and the dashed line is only where you score. So I'm trimming off the little ends of that tab, that last little section of the end piece, so you have that full tab, and then I'm going to trim from this bottom edge up to the scored line. And this helps create the pop-up box, the box part of the box. So fold along those scored lines. Again, you can refer to the template. It's all those dotted lines. And these are the flaps, so you're going to score or fold these ones back away from you. And here is the basic foundation of the box. Using the template with all of the different shapes of rectangles, we're going to create the hinges. So trim these strips to 1 inch wide by 3 3/8. So I know these are very particular, not very commonly used increments, but it all works together. It's just a little bit of math. So 1 inch by 3 3/8 inch, having those 1/8 inch increments on the scoring board and the paper trimmer help make this come together quickly and easily. So on these 3 hinges, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 2 7/8 inches. Repeat that for all 3 hinges. So score at 1/2 inch and 2 7/8 of an inch. We are finished with the scoring board, so you can go ahead and put the tool away and then score on those fold lines of these hinges, all 3 of them. Now I want to cut the pattern papers for the panels for embellishing the box, so I'm bringing in my chosen pattern papers and trimming this box layer 1 piece to 2 1/8 by 2.5 inches. Repeating that 3 more times. You can see next to that box layer 1 it says ×4, so you want to cut 4 each of all 4 of these layer pieces really, but we're just going to do the box layer pieces first. We'll do the flap layer pieces a little bit later. So this is the last one from the box layer 1, and now I'm going to trim the pieces for the box layer 2, which is 1 7/8 by 2 1/4 inches. The template is scaled to size, so you can always place the piece of paper on top and make sure it fits. Just make sure when you're printing that you have it set to 100%. You're not scaling to fit, you're not scaling down or scaling up, it's at 100%. And it's also helpful to pick the pattern papers you want to use beforehand and figure out the order you want them. If you want the smaller paper on top, like which color, which pattern you want on top, which layer. So I'm spreading out all of the box layer pieces, and I'm going to add the smaller pieces on top, so it just adds some fun color and pattern to the box. Just going to dab a little bit of adhesive on the back because I'm going to add machine stitching. If you are not going to add machine stitching, you want to use stronger adhesive all over so that these stay in place permanently. But because I'm adding machine stitching, just going to do a little dab of glue to get them stuck together so they don't shift around as I am machine stitching through. So I'm bringing in my sewing machine. I'm using white thread and a basic running stitch, and here my husband filmed for me so that I could use both hands. Trying to film with one hand and sewing at the same time, I've tried many times, doesn't work. So I'm grateful for him for taking a pause and helping me film. So I'm just doing the running stitch and rotating at the corners. Did the outside paper first and then the inner paper. And I love the texture and dimension that this adds, gives it a little homespun look. So I'm placing the panels in the order that I want them on the box and then using the liquid adhesive to attach the panels in place. So this is some quick dry adhesive. You just need to press it in place for a couple of seconds and then it dries really quickly, which is nice. So I'm going to adhere all 4 panels onto the outer edges of the box. Now you can really have fun with the colors and patterns that you use. You can make them all the same, you can make them all different, you can pick and choose which colors. Say you want to do like a red and black box for Valentine's Day or an anniversary or bridal gift. Lots of options for fun pop-up cards. Time to adhere the 3 hinges. So turn the paper upside down so the pattern papers are on the table, and then I'm just trying to figure out the spacing. It really doesn't matter how far or how close, you just want to contain them in this one section. Dab a little bit of liquid glue on the folded over hinge and then place them aligned. I'm trying to space them evenly apart, but this is only my second box that I've made, so there's still a little bit of trial and error. This next step, you want to add adhesive on the other folded flap. So here, this top flap folded over edge on all 3. And then this is a fun trick. So bend them over, pushing them down to the left, and then fold the other half of the box over. And when you open it back up, the hinges are in place and ready to go. Just make sure it's dry before you start handling it. Adding liquid adhesive on this final tab and then securing the box to complete the basic shape of the box. Awesome. Moving along, we are going to trim the panels for the flaps. So based on the template, the flap layer 1 is trimmed to 2 1/8 by 2 inches, repeated 4 times. Now I'm using the same pattern papers that I used on the box layer pieces, but if you want to go all out, you can change and use 8 completely different pattern papers. So I cut 4 of those, and then for the flap layer 2, trim it to 1 7/8 by 1 3/4 inches. And again, you can just download this template on my blog and you will be good to go. Just print them out and refer to them as you are trimming these pattern papers. Next step, you want to round the corners of these flaps. This step isn't completely essential, but I love the finished look that it adds. Figuring out the placement of these pattern papers, I'm just mirroring what I did on the sides. And then you want to round just the bottom corners of both panel pieces for each of the 4 panels. So 8 pattern papers total, round the bottom corners, add a little dab of liquid adhesive if you are planning to machine stitch, or if you're not planning to add machine stitching, adhere them in place securely with a good glue or adhesive roller or double-sided tape. And make sure the rounded corners match up so they're matting together as shown. So again, next step is adding machine stitching. So called in my hubby, and when you're going around the corners, just go slowly and lift the foot, rotate, and then keep going. So I'm sewing the outer panel first and then the panel on top. Once you're finished, trim off the excess thread and repeat with all of your panels. I'm using liquid glue to attach the panels in place. And I did opposites so that one I just adhered with the pink and the flowers is on the opposite side of the box. So you get an overall rainbow effect when you're looking at the box. Gluing the last one in place. Cool beans. So I love how it folds flat too, so you can just pop it in the mail. Here's how it's looking. So now we want to create the transparency strips, which is what the stickers and die cuts are going to stick on. So I'm trimming them to a 1/2 inch by 5 inches, but I did end up varying the length of these strips as I was adhering them in place inside the box. So as long as they're a 1/2 inch by 5 inches, I didn't end up cutting them any longer. I did end up cutting quite a few of them a bit shorter. And this pattern transparency can be found in my Bloom Street collection. I thought it was really fun to not have it be plain, just plain transparency, which you can find at office stores or other online sources. But I love having the extra flowers because I knew I wanted these to be super floral in the first place. So I went through Bloom Street and I found flower die cuts, stickers, sentiments, bees, butterflies, and a Hello Spring round die cut. And then to attach them in place, use the super sticky double-sided adhesive roll. And you can add it directly to the top of one of the transparency pieces and stick the die cut on top. You can also use glue dots or foam adhesive squares for even more dimension. You want to start with the largest pieces first, and it's basically just trial and error. If you want it to fit inside of a 6 by 6 inch envelope, make sure that they don't rise above 6 inches. Or you can just put it in a larger envelope, but that will cost a little bit more to mail. And then starting in the back and working your way towards the front. I didn't really follow my own advice doing that, but if you want to have your elements in the back higher and work your way down as you move towards the front. So the pieces in the front are lower. You just add the double-sided adhesive tape at the bottom. You may want to trim, so I like to hold it in place first to see how it's going to look. Trim the transparency strip if necessary, and then add the adhesive and squeeze it into place inside the box. You can decorate that front flap. You can decorate all of the flaps if you want to and leave one of them empty to write a note to whoever you plan to send this to. So on this front flap, I'm adding a couple butterflies and bending up the wings for dimension, adhering it with foam tape for a pop of dimension, and then adding a Be Yourself sticker. So these are the finished pop-up cards. I hope you are inspired to send your loved ones mail like Anna and Elsa do in the new Frozen 2 movie, which you can pick up today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day.